All right, group, this is our third session of the mentorship program. Today is October 28th. Okay, I wanted to jump to it. We're gonna stick to the points. I'm not gonna go too far like we did last time. We kind of extended a little bit the last session. I'm trying to keep these 45 minutes to an hour, so that it's easier to also break down later on, because everybody's busy. So I don't know, you don't want to go through a video for over an hour, but if we keep it 45 minutes to an hour, we can break it down into different, like manageable segments to definitely be able to, dissect it and then understand it. So this third session is a continuation of what we did yesterday. Not yesterday, last week, rather. So last week we discussed, we were working on module 2 of the curriculum, and we talked about from concept to completion. So although we have a lot of things on our course list curriculum that we're going to do, we're going to start out with this portion because we have a project that's going on now, which is 4676 Lake Vista Circle. And so we're going to kind of tailor it to that. And in between times when things are slowed down or when we can add on to the other things, then we will start diving into the other parts of the curriculum, like things towards taking a test, things towards scheduling, all the things that's in the curriculum we discussed. There's a lot of things. We have a 6-month course, and we're gonna mix it all in. All right, so let's get started. All right, so just a quick recap. 5-minute recap of last week's session. So last week we discussed what it was like our first steps in trying to buy a piece of land to do new construction. And the one thing we talked about was the survey was very important, and we discussed that if you have a survey, you need to be able to pay attention to a few things in the survey. Okay. One thing we talked about was the property lines. We needed to know what your property lines are, so you know exactly what you're dealing with and where your house is. The second thing we talked about was the contour lines. So Josh, I know you weren't in class for it, but if you recall these from last session, these are our contour lines, right? These right here that go in from 782, 784, 780, all the way down. These squiggly lines here, these are your contour lines, which shows how your land is basically laying, whether it's going back, going up, going down, curving. So in this particular case, we
It's nothing
discussed
on
that.
my screen.
Say that again.
It's nothing on my screen. Like I just see, I guess, like your files that you're trying to open up, but I don't see
Whoa,
the
is that the same
survey.
for everyone? Is that the same for everyone? 4-day.
Yeah,
Let me
it's the
see.
same.
Okay, so you don't see the screen.
No.
Yeah,
only
like
show
I
the
see the
file.
screen, but it's just your files. Like it's nothing that's open.
Oh, hold on. Okay, hold on. 1 second. Let's get back to this. Thank you. Because I'm going through this now like, yeah. How about now?
All right, we good now.
Okay, cool. All right, bet. Thank you. All right. So then let me get back to what I was saying then. We had on here last week, as I said, we discussed your property lines, right? We discussed that last week, so you know how your layout is on your property. We discussed all that. So you've seen the last video. This is just a recap of it. Then I said the second thing we want to look at is our contour lines, right? So basically, these are our lines that's going through here. This is our street. So this is Lake Vista Circle. I think all of us has been there one time. So this is the street, Lake Vista Circle, and the elevation that we have there was 786. But when you go down, you have 784, and then you have 782, 780. It keeps dropping all the way down to 772. You know, so we were discussing how from the bottom of the lot all the way to the street level, we had about a 14-foot drop, you know? So we discussed that. And then even further down from 772 towards the back, I think we had like, let me see, 770 at one point. Yep. So way at the back, we ended up at 770. So this property is gradually going down. So we said that the difference from 786 and 772 gave us 14 feet. And if we go all the way to the back at 770, we were at 16 feet. And this is what I was discussing with the group as to why, if we had looked at this initially, we would know that we had to build the property up. Because the videos that I sent to everyone, I showed you after the lot got cleared that after they shot the grade, we saw that we needed to bring in dirt to raise the pad. And the reason being that our basement, we have like a 9-foot basement. So our basement level is supposed to be at least 9 feet down. We can live with 10 feet if we have to, but there was no way we could do that and make it work and still have this much, you know, to be this much down into the ground, you know? So we're talking at least 5 feet, well, at least 4 feet, but at best 5 feet is what we got to bring the elevation to. And then we account for our slab and all that. So that's going to give us a little bit of height. So that's why we have to end up bringing in all this dirt. So once we brought in the dirt, once we did all the grading, then we saw we had to bring in dirt, you know, and we brought in a lot of dirt to bring the house to the level that we needed to be. So we discussed the contour lines, which is very important. We discussed the next thing we look for is the setbacks. We look for the setbacks. And we talked about that here. Over here, we have a 22-foot setback. I can blow it up a little bit. So once again, this is just a little recap. We had a setback. We had 22 feet setback in the front. We had 20 feet setback in the back. And on the side, we had 7.5 feet setback. And the same on the other side. 7.5 feet setback right here. We discussed that. And then we talked about one of the biggest things. And I know, Josh, you weren't here for it, but one of the big things that we look for are floodplains, creeks, but easements. Easements were one of the biggest things that we look for. And one of the things we discussed yesterday was we saw that we had an easement here. We have a CM. Oh, and also we looked at the legend to explain things that we may not understand. So easement, we have an easement here. We saw, of course, we discussed that it had the trees, the pine trees, we see it. We saw there was we had a 54-inch CMP, and we asked a question, what does CMP mean? And if we didn't know what that was, you was able to go to the legend and look it up. And the CMP is the corrugated metal pipe right there. So the corrugated metal pipe and the CMP would give you what you need to know in terms of what is on the survey. We discussed the easements because over here, we have a drainage easement, 25-foot drainage easement. So that was part of the discussion. But the question that came out of this that I asked the class was, knowing that we have this huge lot. And we know that the setbacks create our buildable area. And I think everybody in the class is aware of that. After the setbacks, we have what is called our buildable area. Why couldn't we just put our house anywhere we want in the buildable area? And the answer to that was we can. We can put our house in the buildable area. Then I took everybody to this next graph, or out to this next two graphs. I bypassed this and I went to this. And I said, if you will look at this house on this huge lot that we have, it's not really centered like you would want it, because it's pushed so close to your lot right here, but yet you have so much space on this side, all the way here before you get to your property line. I mean, you're like all the way here. So why this big space? And that was the reason that we discussed the importance of the easements, and that it was the easement that we had to be at least 25 feet from that line going back there. So you couldn't build anything within 25 feet of this, okay? So it forced us to have the house pushed away from the easement. All right, we also discussed the CMP, that pipe. If you go to the site now, you'll see that there's a culvert, so to speak, is an opening here for the stormwater opening, right? And this stormwater opening is where, when it rains, water goes down here, and it goes way down. There's a pipe that goes way down, and it falls into this right here. There's a big pipe going through here. It's 48 inches here, and then it branches to 54 inches, which is even wider. And the reason it's wider is because you have water. You have an 18-inch one coming down the side of the house from up the hill, and it's tying right into this drain. And then you have a 48-inch one also coming in and tying into here. So they've widened the pipe bigger to accept both of these, and then the water drains down there. Now, you can't see it when you're on the land because it's deep down underneath. But when you get to the corner of the lot, you'll see the opening here. So we discussed the easements, right? And I said, okay, well, now we see why it's important, to look at the easements. And then we discussed what else we'll look at. We look for floodplains. We discussed why we need to look for floodplains, any creeks, because we have different things now. There's easements now that will allow, and buffers. There's also buffers that when you have a lake or a creek, you have to be, in some cases, 25 feet, but usually state waters, creeks, sometimes they want 75 feet of a buffer. And I explained that one of the lots over there that we're doing in Clayton County has that issue, where we couldn't actually build because now, initially it was good to go, but now they've changed the rules, and now we have to be 75 feet away from the creek, and there's actually a lake back there. And so that 75-foot buffer has us to the point where we don't even have a buildable area. So we have to go and fight for a variance. So anyway, that was basically the recap. I don't know if anybody had questions on that from last week. I know we could look at the video, but I wanted to dive into this week, that we can touch on the other things. So is everybody good? Any questions for me before we go on? All right, I'm gonna take that as we good to go. So we'll continue. So after, bring it down some. Okay. So after we got the survey, then we had to look at the next thing that we did. Our survey engineer had to draw up our plan, because of course the purpose of us doing this survey was because we're looking to build a house. So the survey was first. Then comes this portion. Okay. All of this is together now, but initially it wasn't. Initially, it was just a survey that we saw. Okay. And then after the surveys looked at and we approve it, then we get to this phase. What is this phase? This is where we start working on what is called the site plan. Okay, so initially is our survey. Now we're gonna do our next step is our site plan. So once we looked at everything on the survey and decided that we're good to go, we know how big our lot is, we know what our setbacks are, we know what the easements are. There's no floodplains or creeks that's gonna, mess us up. But we do see that we have a basement lot because the lot is sloping downwards from the street. So if you're standing on the street, you're going to be looking down about 14 to 16 feet when all the trees are cleared. And I mentioned that if you are not living in Georgia and you ordered this survey, you should be able to break this survey down based on what we went through and know exactly what that lot should look like. At least you can picture it in your mind. So you will know that, yeah, we're low here. We're going to have to build this thing up. So what happens next? Well, after the survey is done and we're happy with everything and we've done our due diligence and we decide to purchase the property, then yeah, we go ahead and purchase it. Okay. But then the next step is we have to present a property that will go on the survey. So the engineer that designed the survey is going to ask us for a copy of our building plans. All right. And that's exactly what happened. He asked for a copy of our building plan. So let me see here. So with a copy of our building plan, this a little bit. Okay. So with a copy of our building plan, we had this. We had to send him a copy of our building plan. And so what he looks for is our outline of our property. Okay. He doesn't really care about the second floor. He's looking for the first floor layout. And also, since we have a basement, our basement layout. So let me blow this up some. So when he gets our plans, like I can literally send him the basement and first floor plans and he'll be good to go. Okay. So I sent him, he looked at the plans. So he saw our basement plan. And he's like, okay, this is what they're going to put there. Although the basement is going to be unfinished, he doesn't care about that. So he just wants to look at the layout. So he sees that, okay, we're 20 feet, 6.5 inches here. It curves in 5 feet, 5.5 inches. It curves out. It goes out another 14 feet, 10. It comes in 4 feet. So he's seeing all these curves that are on this house for the basement. Then it comes out here. Then it comes across here. Then it comes down here. Then it turns here. So he's looking at all these dimensions. Okay. All these dimensions. And he's like, okay. So he looks at that. That's what our layout is. So we're going to be about 49 feet, at least from this here all the way to the edge here. He's looking at a span of about 49 feet, 3.5 inches. Okay. And then from back here, well, we'll start here actually, from back here all the way to the front, he's looking at roughly 38 feet, 7.5 inches. So he sees this layout. And then he goes to the other part, which is the layout of the first floor. So when he sees this first floor, he will notice that we have a garage here, right? So he understands the basement is under here. So he sees that the first floor layout is we have a garage here and it's a side entry. So he's gonna design it so that our house, our garage enters, our driveway comes in this way into the house. He sees that. He also sees that the layout of the house goes out like this, curves out 4 feet, goes out another almost 15 feet, curves back in 4 feet. He's seeing all that. He's seeing all the contours. Then it goes all the way back. Then he sees that it turns out this way. He sees it comes down across this. Now, if y'all remember the videos that I sent y'all during the class, there were some things on here that there were some things on the site when we did the staking. Remember the people came and y'all, I did the little video and y'all saw the stakes, y'all saw the little pink ribbons on them. These were the property corners that I was talking about. So the survey engineer, after they've designed the site plan, we call them back out. So this is important because we call him back out and he does all of the site plans corners. I even sent y'all something in the group chat about that, and it shows you all the little points of where the house corners are going to be. Okay, so taking this into account, he looks at this and he creates an outline for us. And that outline is what he puts on here. So taking the first floor into account, he looks at all of this, and this is if you're looking at a house from the top, this is what you're going to see. He's brought the house here. This is the garage, if you'll recall. So he's brought the driveway in, and this is his layout. And then I approve it. He brings the driveway in, so it's going to go in here. This is the garage that we saw. He has a turnaround for us, so when you back out, you can back out into here and then go out. So he's created that. He's created the width of the concrete of the driveway. He's placed the sidewalk because, as you can see on the site plan, it says install new 5-foot concrete sidewalks per DeKalb County standards. And that's important because for DeKalb County, and mostly any county that I build in, if you're in a subdivision, sometimes even if you're not in a subdivision, but if you're definitely in a subdivision, they're going to make you finish the sidewalk. Whether you argue that it's not for you or not, it's not your property. The sidewalk belongs to the county. They don't care. You're responsible for doing the sidewalk. You're responsible for doing this apron of what comes into this house via the driveway. Okay. So the engineer that does the site plan understands what the rules are for the county. They know what is required. So they would look on the requirements and they will create a site plan for you. Now, I'm going to pause here for 1 second because it's something you have to understand. I have gotten site plans in different counties, and some counties have very, very strict guidelines and restrictions, and we had to revise the site plan several times because they have their specifications of what they want. So always make sure that your engineer is good enough and that your engineer is able to read the recommendations or the requirements of the county that you're in or the city, depending, whichever one. And then they would design the site plan according to what the county will accept. Otherwise, they won't accept it. All right. So the DeKalb County required that we install 2-inch river birch dura heat. So 2 plants are going to go here. 1 plant here, 1 plant here. And these plants are heavy. Okay, so if you don't have these, you won't pass your final inspection when you're ready to finish your house. If you look across the street, when you go back to the site, you'll notice that those houses have a tree, actually 2 trees planted as well in front of them. These are the requirements. Okay, so on the site plan, you will see the layout of your house. You will see the concrete that takes you to the house. You will see the steps that he has. You will see the patio that he has. Okay. back down here. And you see the elevations, 774 back here, 776 over here. Okay. So at this point, we're trying to get to, at 776, you're at about a 10-foot mark right here, you know, and this here says 774. So the basement finished floor elevation, 774. And we had 786. So that's about 12 feet. That's the minimum. That's the minimum that they'll give you. Okay. That's the minimum basement finished floor elevation. But we have a 9-foot basement wall. So we actually have to build it up a little bit more. So by the time we install the concrete, which is going to be like another 10 inches, and then the slab that goes on top, but the concrete, the slab, the foundation wall, you're going to be about almost another foot to your elevation. So you will have to be at least 11 feet below. Okay. So from our street level, so we'll probably be at 775, close to it. And then we'll put our foundation there. But anyway, you have this, you have that. And then this portion that we're going to look at. Once he lays all this out for you, he also has to lay out your protection. So when I say your protection, you're supposed to protect that property. Your neighbors on either side of you, you have to protect them because you're going to disturb all this land. So when you disturb all this land, if it rains, all that raw dirt is going to push over onto the properties on either side of you and also in the back of you. Okay. Now, before this, he gave you this. So before we get to that site plan with the property on it, he shows you what you have to do. Okay. There's a erosion control that you have to do to meet with the county before you start building. They prefer you to. They normally have a pre-construction meeting with code enforcement. Okay. And normally what that is they want this plan. They know you're coming to disturb your trees. They know you're coming to start grading. But what they want to see is, what is your erosion control plan? Right? And that is what we're going to have. So you see here, they have 24-hour erosion control contact. That's me. That's my number. Okay. So what will happen is the county, when they come to the site and they see this plan in the box, they're going to call me. And whoever this contact is me. If it rains, if anything happens and they come to the site and something's not right, they're going to call me. I'm responsible. I also have to have my erosion control card, my blue card, which I sent you a copy of that in the group chat, to show that I understand and I'm qualified to be on the site to actually implement these erosion control methods. So let's discuss these erosion control methods. One, you have to have install what is called a construction exit. Some call it construction entrance, but construction exit. Okay, that goes here. They tell you to remove existing back of curb as needed for new drive. We'll do that later. But right now, you have to have this. And I think in the video I sent to y'all, this is a fabric that you lay down. You lay this fabric down, usually about 25 feet wide, and you go back 50 feet. And then you pour gravel on top of it. In this case, I think we use number 34 stone. So you put the fabric down, then you bring some gravel to spread over it. I sent you a video showing that. This is to prevent the tracking of dirt and silt from getting into the street. As trucks come in and unload and move, even when the dump trucks were coming in, we had to form this first. And then they come on and back in, they'll dump. And when they come, all that dirt is tracked onto this construction exit. And then they go out. When it rains, it becomes extremely important because what you don't want to do is track a whole bunch of dirt through the subdivision. So this construction exit is key. It's very important. They will shut your job down for that. Okay. And then outside of that construction entrance or exit comes your silt fence. Okay. So as you can see, this dotted line right here, this area is your silt fence. This is the silt fence that you're going to put around here to prevent any silt from leaving your site. Now, I wanted you to pay attention to this because in the video I talked about it, but out here, they just have one row of silt fence, just one. That's all you need. And there's a reason for that. Okay. But by the time you get back here, it becomes two. This is now two dotted lines. Two dotted lines, as y'all can see that. It's all two dotted lines at the back, all the way till you get back here, halfway, quarter way back up this hill. And it's very important that you follow this rule or they will shut you down. The reason for this type C double silt fence is because behind us here, well, one, the property sloping to the back, as we know already. But as the property sloping to the back, all that dirt that we've disturbed, if we were to have a heavy rainfall, all the dirt will push towards the back. So one row of silt fence is okay for the front and the sides here. However, at the back, you have to really reinforce it heavily. And that's why they have two. And the silt fence type we have is a type C. So that one is the wire back fence. And it stops heavy duty silt from pushing out and washing over. A major issue for us on this lot is that behind our property, it's a detention pond. So the neighborhood detention pond is back here. That's why you have that CMP. You're going right here, this 54-inch. So when you look at this pipe going back here, and this little 18-inch pipe coming through here and going into this drain, all of this is going back to the detention pond at the back of the property. So you definitely want to make sure you have your silt fence and it's double row. And that's what we did. In the videos I sent, that's exactly what we did. And we hired a professional company to do it. Although sometimes we do it ourselves, but I believe I said I'm going to share with you on the budget. It wasn't too bad. It was not a bad expense to have them come and professionally do it for you. So that's what we did. Over here, something that I will show in the next video, when you go to the site, right here, where this drain is opening up, it says install or maintain an inlet sediment trap. So there's a piece of fabric that we put here to block any sediments from going down here that doesn't need to go down there. All right, I will show that in future videos. So you have to abide by all of these, because if you don't do it and the inspector comes out, he will shut you down. So you're going to have your construction entrance. You're going to put your sediment trap here, your inlet sediment trap. That's a piece that blocks it off there. And you're going to have your silt fence with your double rows. Okay. Any questions? I think it's pretty self-explanatory at this point, but are there any questions before I jump into the other one? You're good? All right, I think we're good here. So then, after all that's satisfied, now you can look at the overall site plan. And this is what you're going to need to submit to the county, along with your survey and everything else we have. This is the most important thing, because the county is going to look at this, and especially for DeKalb County, they're not so concerned about the house as they are about the lot and the layout of the lot and how you treat the lot area. Okay, so DeKalb wants to make sure that you have everything according to what they want. They want to see where your dumpster is going to be. Okay, they want to see where your portable toilet is going to be. We have a portable toilet down the street. So probably once I get the water meter for that, I'll move the portable toilet here. That way the people have a place to use the bathroom when they're on a construction site. Okay. We discussed how the house is. We discussed the concrete pad. They're going to look at that. Okay. Because part of what they do is on the site plan, they're going to look at your lot coverage. And this becomes important when you're applying for your permit, because the county is going to ask you for all these things. And so you have to make sure that your site plan person, engineer, records everything, because you're going to have to take these numbers and input it into your application. So when they talk about disturbed area, 10,600 square feet, well, this is supposed to be all the disturbed area that you're going to disturb as far as the county is concerned. We disturbed a little bit more than that, but this is what we're telling them we were going to do. Okay, because we have to end up moving some of these trees out the way. We're going to probably plant more trees, but I'll let them decide that in the end. But all these pine trees, there's no neighbors with pine trees over there. But basically, you're going to talk about your disturbed area. They're going to ask for that, because out of all this total area, they need to know what area you're going to disturb. Okay, your lot area is right here, 16,991 square feet. It's a pretty big lot. Okay, so your lot coverage, they have at 20.5%. So they want to see all of this is your lot coverage. And so that's the 20.5%. So your new impervious area, this is going to be all of this, the concrete, your slab, your driveway, all of that becomes your new impervious area. And you're at 3,491 square feet. It may not matter to you at the moment, but you have to pay attention to it, because in some counties, or based on what the counties allow, there's a limit as to how much of an area you can cover. So you can't come out here and build a big mansion and cover all of this with concrete. You have to stay within a certain percentage of the impervious area. So all your concrete areas are your impervious areas, because nothing can come through it, right? Rain is not going to come through that. So these are your impervious areas. Okay. What's the other thing we look at that you're going to see on your site plan? One important thing, which is great for us, in case you don't know, well, you need to know where your sanitary sewer service line is, right? And they've located it here. So if you're not in Atlanta and you have your site plan and then you have your survey to look at, you already know that, okay, if we put this house here and we're on a basement, and we know that the basement is at a 774-foot elevation, but we know back here, we're sitting on 770 elevation, then I know that from my basement to here, I will have at least like a 4-foot drop, which is great, because now from the basement, I can shoot straight to my sanitary sewer right here. So it's showing you your sewer line is going to tie into your sewer back here. So now your basement will not need a pump. You can go straight from your basement and go straight to the back. So that's a good thing. That's another thing you'll notice. Okay. So as you can see, this is how your house is going to sit on the site plan. You're going to have your setbacks. You're going to have your driveways, your stairways. You're going to have your disturbed area that's here. You're going to show where your sewer line is. And everything is not always going to be shown, by the way. So one thing I'm going to point out to you, there's nothing on this lot that tells me where my power line is. Unlike some of my other lots across the street, there is nothing. We have our sewer, it shows us, but it doesn't show us where our power line is. Now, if you remember the videos I've sent you, I showed you where our transformer is. And that's because initially there was no power line here. This lot didn't have power at all. There was none. We had to bring in a power line, which cost us about $2,500 for them to shoot it across from the street all the way to here. So now we have power here. So if this survey and site plan was done after the power line was, brought to the site, you will see it on here. But the fact that it wasn't here means that he didn't see one there, and so he didn't put one there. So that could be a question that you have to ask. Like, wait a minute, there's no power here. So somehow I have to get power connected to here, and that's what we ended up doing. So pretty straightforward with a site plan, and this is what you will need. Also, a site plan has to be stamped by an engineer. Okay, this is Mr. Eckert. He's our engineer that did the site plan. I mentioned that if we have any detailed questions, he's more than willing to come online with us. Okay, so he discusses this here with us. He has, without this, the county will not accept your plan. So if somebody does it for you and they don't have a stamp on it, you don't accept it. They have to do it. All right. And then you follow along with everything else he's saying. Install new driveway apron, put DeKalb County standards 709 and 710. I had a run-in with DeKalb County a lot. If you don't put this on your site plan, they will deny you. Because 709 and 710 standards is what this is about for them. Okay, so all these things have to be there. On here, he says install new 10-foot concrete drive. Verify specifications with owner prior to installation. That is because this can change. We could make it 12 feet if we want. We could make it a little bit smaller if we want. But this is what he's put there. It's not a matter of whether the county will accept that or not. He's just saying this is what he has. Verify with the owner. Okay. What else is here that we need to look at on this? Okay. So runoff reduction, DeKalb County does require this. I remember this as well. DeKalb County requires a runoff reduction. Although we're in a subdivision and we have all these pipes that connect to the water system, which goes to a detention pond, they still wanted something to be written. Okay. And so Bill Eckert went in there and said, water quality has been provided for the overall subdivision by the stormwater management ponds shown on the recorded final plat. This was very important because without this, and we had to fight for this, DeKalb County is going to make you create your own stormwater system runoff in the back of your house. So basically, you're going to create your own little mini detention pond that's going to tie all your gutters that's coming down from this house. All your gutters will tie in underground and will go to that pond. And then you will basically maintain it on your site. Okay, so in this case, we're in a subdivision. We didn't have to do that. But you also have to state and show that the subdivision has it in place. All right, so these are all things that we came across. We discussed this already. Construct new house. We discussed that already based on the architectural plans. Let's see, provide temporary stabilization as needed. And this is the key right here. Install sod for permanent stabilization. Okay. Per recorded plat, sod is required for all front, side, and rear yards. Now, if you miss this and you're going to build your house and it's time to finish it, and you decide you're gonna be cheap, you're just gonna put down some seed and straw in the back of the sides, and maybe you're just gonna put a little sod in the front, you're gonna fail. Because per the recorded plat, because you're in a subdivision and there's a HOA, this HOA says you gotta have sod all around your house. So you're gonna spend some money. And you need to know this before you go into building so you can account for it for your budget. That all this area around this house is going to be all sod. Okay. So very good. We got that. Install new water service line. It says fill, verify, and adjust routing. So he's noticed that there's a water line in here, but he wants us to verify it. There's a water line from DeKalb County, and that water line is going to run through here to the house. We are fine with it here. So DeKalb County actually is going to come out and they're going to ask me where exactly I want it. Although we have it on the plan, they're going to ask me where exactly I want my water line. And I'm going to put a sign out here for them. And they will look at that sign, and then they're going to come and shoot the water line, and they're going to drop my water meter right here for us. And that's what we're going to connect to bring water into the house. Okay. Let's see. We discussed that. We discussed the water. So basically, your site plan should be something like this. You should have all of it, telling you exactly what you're going to do. Okay. And it's based on the architectural plans. It's based on the DeKalb County, you know, their record, what's on their plat, and also what's in the subdivisions requirements. Okay. And then this talks about a patio below, wood deck above. All of that is in there. Install silt fence. And it tells you how to do that. So it says see demolition sheet, which is here. This is our demolition sheet. So when you're doing all the clearing and grading, you got to put this silt fence up. So when you see these, we talked about our legend. So you already know what the legend is. You know how to look for that. Believe that's it for now. And that basically is your site plan. Now, with us wrapping up on the site plan, I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to open it up to see if you have any questions. And then it will get us into next week's program. Okay. We're going to get into next week's program when we start discussing. Well, this is part of it, part of his notes. Part of his notes. He talked about a concrete entrance, 6-inch. We're going to get into more of that. Like I said, I don't want to create too much of a delay, but we're going to get into the building now. Okay. And we're going to go into part of what we, very good. Since we got this here, let me show you. The inlet sediment trap right here. Let me see if I can blow it up for you a little bit. Yeah, I'm glad he had it here. I believe I had it on the video, but so when you go to the site and you'll see that we have this opening for the stormwater drain system. You see this little piece right here? This is that inlet sediment trap that we were talking about. And when you go to the site, you'll see it. So this is here. Some people call it a peg. They call it different names. But this right here is what you lay across. Okay. You can't buy it at Home Depot, but you can buy it from your storm management, places that sell silt fence and, like landscape material and all that. So this thing right here is what you're going to put for your inlet sediment trap to prevent silt and dirt from entering here. All right. Okay. I'm glad I saw that. All right. So with that, I'm going to get back to this. I wanted to go over the site plan, so make sure that we understood the site plan. And very important, what you need to definitely get you to the next phase of getting your permit. So after you have your plans and after you have your site plan, The next step now is you're going to present everything to the county for permitting, because at this point you're ready to go. You have your house, you have your site plan, you have your survey. You have everything you need now to go ahead and submit. So if you're going to build your house, those are the components you need. And after that, we can move forward to submit it for permitting with the county. And when they come back with a permit, the construction begins. All right. So I think so far we're good on the site plan. Get back to everyone. And feel free to unmute. If you have any questions, let me know. We're going to save this recording and send it back for y'all to look at. If there's any details that you want to know about the site plan, let me know. We'll discuss it. But next week, we're going to talk about what we've done so far on the site. We're going to talk about all that dirt that we have to bring in. And like I said, after we talked about the contour lines, I think we have an understanding. But we're going to go over some of the videos. I'm going to try and compile the videos and put them in here. Some of the videos that we've seen, we want to definitely look at that and say, okay, we have to build this up, and this is why we built this up. And now we're at the phase where we're ready to get started. We're trying to get started this week, towards the end of the week, with doing the preparing the foundation. Okay. So 2 things I'll mention for the next 5 minutes real quick. We have to build up this lot as per the videos I showed you. And the reason we discussed it was that the elevation back here was very low, and we needed to bring it up some because we want to do a 9-foot basement. So that's why we brought in the dirt. And then we had to compact that dirt. Okay. But that alone wasn't good enough. You know, you couldn't just compact the dirt and just start building, because you had to go through a compaction test. And that's why we hired the engineer company. And I sent y'all a copy of the compaction test showing that we're good to go. But that compaction test is to tell us that we can put the house there and it will support the house. There was a reason why we brought in the type of dirt that we brought in. We brought in Georgia red clay, compacting dirt. Okay, that's the dirt that you use to build up and raise a foundation if you want to make it higher, but also make sure that it's not going to sink on you. And as they did each layer, they're running the machines over it, compacting it. In some cases, they actually bring a compacting machine that goes around and like it tampers it as it goes. It pushes down on it to make sure that it's packed tight. Okay. And then once it's done and you're at the elevation that you need to be at, you have to go in there and do a compaction test. So the engineer that came out, in the letter, y'all can look at it if you get a chance, or I will email it to you. If you want to send me your email, you can look at it, or I'm sending it through WhatsApp. But it discusses the type of test they did, how they probed it, how they tested it to make sure that it meets the PSI requirements, you know, so that it's sturdy enough to handle the load. So after that engineer gives us the letter, then we're confident that we can move forward. Okay. And that means that the ground is solid enough. Now, without that letter, my foundation people are not going to do the foundation because they don't want to be at risk for anything happening. They come and put a foundation on your property, it caves in, and then you're going after them. They don't want that. And believe me, things like that has happened. So a compaction test, and there's some things I'm going to share with you as we go forward during this process. We've done some houses in areas that have bad water. Like the water table was very low. The place had a lot of bad water, almost like building on the beach or something, you know? And then in one house, we had to actually bring in a lot of dirt to compact it. After we brought the dirt and we raised the property up, we had to send the engineer. We compacted it as best as we could. Every 6 inches, we compacted. Well, we brought in Georgia clay dirt, but that land, the way it was, we couldn't get enough compaction for it to hold all that dirt. So when that engineer came and tested it, they were like, that's not going to work. The solution to that is they write you a prescription that says you're going to put helical piles or helical piers in here. And those are like, they're like this auger. They're like an auger. They're a winding piece of metal, real long, and you actually have to turn them into the ground. They use the machines to drill them in until they hit tight, until they're not turning anymore. You have to do that on your footings. So when you pour your footings, those augers have to go in there like every 2 feet or something like that. You know, they can be very expensive. The last one we did cost my guy $60,000. But that's what he had to do to stabilize this dirt. So compaction test is very important, okay? And we'll discuss those down the line. So right now, after we pass the compaction test, which we did, now our guys are ready to come in and we're going to start talking about the footings and preparing to pour the footings and what that means. And that's going to be on our house plans. So we're going to discuss that next Monday, okay? We're going to get into the house plans next Monday and we're going to discuss all of it. We're going to go through all the features of it, the house. We're going to talk about the foundation. Of course, this is what the house is supposed to look like. We're going to talk about elevation. A lot of things, a lot of things. We're going to get into the footings, everything. Okay, so now it's going to get real busy and interesting. And believe me, we did this last time. We're going to go through it again. It talks about a concrete foundation wall. We're going to get real deep into it. So next week, we're going to tune in. We're going to start a little bit early. I think we're at our hour mark. So I'm going to prepare to finish up. Is there any questions right now with regards to the survey and the site plan? I think everybody's on board. If you're not, let me know. And if not, you can also reach out to me and then I'll make sure, I put it out there to the group as you move along. Is everybody okay on that?
Another question.
Sure, go ahead.
If there is any mistake on the site plan, the engineer will fix it for the same price, or it gotta be, I mean, if it is his mistake, he's gonna fix it for the same price, or it gotta be a different price?
Good question. The engineer is supposed to do it for the same price because it is on the engineer. The engineer is responsible for looking up the county codes and then doing the site plan according to the county codes. So if they do something and the county doesn't accept it, you have to give it back to that engineer. Okay, and they have to fix it. So many times, that's why I like to deal with Bill Eckert. And like I said, anybody that I use, y'all will use and y'all can use. So I like to deal with people that are, that are good, professional. I know he would do the right thing. I can't say for other engineers, but that's supposed to be their job because you don't know the rules. Well, you're gonna know
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
but they are supposed to know it. They are supposed to know what to give you, and they have to fix it. So when you send it in and the city rejects it and it comes back, the engineer has to fix it. Okay. And in some cases, though, you have to kind of meet them halfway. Because I did one in Union City a long time ago, and Union City, I don't know what was wrong with them. My engineer had the county requirements. At that time, I was using a different engineer, but they had the county requirements. They did it, they sent it, but the city of Union City had their own restrictions and what they wanted. And I'm telling you, I had to go. It was like building a subdivision. All the things that they asked for that you had to do, the GPS, it was crazy. They made you do things like doing a subdivision, which is extremely detailed. And I had to go way out to Calhoun, Georgia, and other places just to meet the people over there, show them my card, and discuss things with them before they would actually let me move it along. So I had to get involved. And they asked for many things. And my engineer on that one, they did go above and beyond. It was a lot. So I did pay them a little bit extra, because they did not, no one knew that the city of Union City was going to do that. So they did ask for a little extra for all this additional work they had to do. So in that case, I understood, and, we came to an agreement. But the answer is yes, it falls on them 100%. Any other question? All right. So that's it. Josh, you're good. Fode, you're good.
Yeah, I'm all good.
All right. I think we're good then. So that's it for the site plan. So far we've covered everything from survey to site. And next week we're about to get into the meat of things. In the next few days, I'm going to be sending some videos of the site. And oh, by the way, real quick, 2 minutes. So remember, we have to go and stake out the house corners. I showed it in the video, and I sent y'all something on your WhatsApp showing all those little red dots on the house plan to show where the corners were. Well, after my guys went and disturbed all that land, we had some like offsets that we put there to try and put the stakes back. But after they finished everything, they were not comfortable. And that cost me $800 to get the lots staked out, the house corners. So I asked them to come and put it back, and they said they're not comfortable. They don't want to be responsible. So they want me to know how much it costs, and maybe they'll work something out with me on that fee of getting it restaked. So I have already called back the company that designed this to come back out and stake the house corners. And that's one thing I meant to mention before we get off the site plan. Once you've done your grading and cleared everything and you put your pad the way it should be, don't ever build your house ever without having the engineer company, the same people that did the site plan, make them come out, and usually they'll charge you a fee. Make them come out and stake out your house corners. Okay, they have to stake out your house corners. That way you know exactly where your property is supposed to start at and where they're going to follow to do your house. Most grading companies, well, most foundation companies are good enough that if you give them 2 points, either in the front or in the back or on the side, 2 points, as long as they're in the same direction, they can take those points and they can basically lay out your house for you. But I always say, make the survey company do it. I've had a house in the past that was built, and the people built their house on my property. So it became a legal matter. Well, how do you build your house on my property? Well, one, the county was slipping because they didn't check behind him. And now he got a piece of property on my land that he has to pay me for to have an easement. It's because no one went through the process of getting their property staked out. So people just think they can come and look at the house and they can eyeball it. So for instance, someone will look at this and they may just feel like, nah, I want to put my house in the middle, disregarding all the setbacks that they have to have, all the easements, and they'll just place their house where they want to place it. You can't do that. Okay. And so many counties, not all, but a lot that I deal with, they make you do what is called an as-built. An as-built means after you've poured your foundation, they want you to come and do a survey. They want the survey company to come back out and certify that you did it according to what this plan says. If you messed up, you got to go and either file for a variance, or if they feel like it, you're going to have to tear it down and redo it. They want to make sure that you have an as-built to make sure that you did not mess up on here. And it's good for the owner. It's good for the people. It's good for the neighbors. It's good for the builders. It's good for the county. It keeps everybody in check. Okay. So you always want them to come out and stake out the corners. Don't just let somebody tell you they can do it. They can figure it out. Don't do that. Okay. Because the way the house is situated, the way it's oriented, whether it turns a bit or not, all of it is part of it. So when they stake out the corners of your house, now your foundation guys can come and form the foundation of your house. So that's one thing I almost left off. Yes, and it's very important. So never, ever, ever build unless they come and stake out your house corners. And you're going to request for a house corner or a box corner. That's what it's called. House corner or box corner. And you're going to ask for some offsets. Say, give me my house corners with 5-foot offsets. Okay. That way, in case anything happens, you can use the offsets to get back to your house corner. All right. So that's one thing I almost forgot. I'm glad thought about that. So that should conclude our site plan. Like I say, any further questions, let me know. So I think that was your only question, right?
Yes.
All right. Now I'm gonna stop sharing and we're gonna get ready to end up. So next week is gonna be on, and actually moving forward, starting next week, we're gonna pick up the pace because now we're gonna get into the, the actual foundation and the rebar and the, I'll update you as to the date. So if y'all feel like coming out, you can. Anything that's going on the weekends, because I know that's probably when most of y'all will have time, I'll let y'all know in advance and we could stop and check it out. This session, I want it to be a lot more hands-on, too, if we can. So I think I mentioned before, I want to look at the framing. I want to look at the wiring. I want the electricians to come in and explain to us what they're doing, why we need a certain kind of wire, why we need that much wire. People can rob you on your job if you don't know what's going on. So I want each phase to be something that we have more hands on. Okay. All right. So look, all right, that's the end of it. Tune in next week. I'll see y'all, and I will send this recording. What's today? Monday, probably like Thursday. Okay. I'll try and get some group pictures together and all that, and we'll go from there. All right, y'all. Be safe. Josh, I'll get at you tomorrow, okay?
All right, bet.
All right. All right, y'all.
I don't know. Thank you.